Have you been told that these sorts of exercises are really, really good for losing weight quickly this time of year? Well, if you have, but you've got a history of back pain, then you might want to think twice before getting on and starting these as part of your workout. So why are these particular exercises so bad for you? It's so important that we get our body weight down, make sure it's in a normal level, make sure that we get all the benefits of being healthier and doing exercise. But there are different ways of exercise, especially given the times, that we're having to go down those routes and do those sorts of exercises, and they can all too often create real trouble for your back. So let's grab the spine. Losing weight is 100% going to help this section in the lower back. But if you've got lower back issues or have a history of lower back issues, the sorts of home exercise we're seeing on a daily basis, especially given current times, is really just driving more and more pressure through this poor section of the spine. And there's so many different ways we can do it that are okay. But for some reason, you tend to be pushed into that sort of high impact, bounce up and down. You got to shred that fat, jump up and down all over the place, bend down and touch your toes, come back up again. It's absolute nightmare for this section of your lower back. And it just doesn't work, because you could do it for 2 or 3 weeks, but then if for the next 6 weeks you're on the floor with back pain, it's not going to go too well in terms of weight loss. Let's just paint a picture for you. Maybe the back end of last year or a couple of months back, you had some back pain. You had maybe a little injury to this lower part of the lumbar spine, a little bit of muscle spasm, etc. Maybe you had some sciatica or not. And we take one of those standard exercises that you feel, okay, I'm good. It's time to lose some weight. I'm going to go and do some exercise. Let's do some burpees. Burpees are good. Get your heart rate up and down. I've seen the guys on YouTube doing those. Let's do those. But what happens when you're doing a burpee? Well, first of all, you're jumping up. Half the time when you've done more than 3 reps, for everyone, you're looking back down again to see where's the floor, because I want to go back down there because I'm tired. You're rounding your back. You're rounding your back, so you're putting flattening movements through the lumbar spine, and that puts more pressure on the disc. And that extra weight you're trying to lose is coming down on that disc as well, so bang. And then we round our back loads to crouch down to the floor, a real compression through those discs even more. Then we kick our legs out and it might wobble around a little bit. And then we kick back into that rounded back again. And then with a nice rounded back, we drive the legs up into that upright position and repeat over and over again. You can see how this is just going to play havoc. It's going to be awful for this lower lumbar section, which is going to be subject to even more compression than it already gets on a daily basis whilst you're sat down at the computer. If you're someone that's been maintaining your fitness the whole way through the year, 365 days a year, you don't normally skip a beat, you tend not to be someone that is looking to shift those extra pounds because they're not there because you're working out all the time. And those exercises can work great. But someone who's trying to get back into working out needs a routine that's actually going to allow them to work out hard, which you 100% can do, but at the same time isn't going to have all those same pitfalls and the requirements for extra levels of skill that really just aren't there in the average level of the population. The ability to effectively bring those knees up to the chest requires a good degree of hip flexibility. If it doesn't, it rounds our back. And if we've got other issues, such as a lack of strength in those regions as well, we're really going to start to have a wobbly spine that's subject to much more force than it can meaningfully handle. And we've all experienced this, and maybe you've experienced it in the past, where you finish that workout and you go, God, my back is killing me. I didn't feel good, or my knee, or my hips are just really sore after that workout. You're out of breath, yes, but are you building up a problem? Because in a lot of cases, back pain, it doesn't come on there and then. It's very rare that you have one particular instance that caused the problem. It's normally a build-up of those sessions 3 or 4 times a week, doing that high intensity, jumping around in the living room, that is the consequence. It's the build-up that creates the trouble. Let me be honest with you. If you're looking to get into doing a high intensity workout and you don't have a certain level of skill, then you're really going to shoot yourself in your foot unless you're willing to go back to the basics and just make sure we've got a few points checked off. So come with me and we'll go through those few points before we get into the things that you really need to do. Number 1, we need a strong core. We need the ability to effectively engage our core and hold our spine steady, and a lot of people just don't have that. So generating that powerful movement up through that burpee is just not working because we're not able to hold the core stable. So that's the first thing, that core. We need a reasonable degree of flexibility. We actually need to have a good degree of range of motion in our hips to allow us to bring the knees up through certain ranges of motion when we're doing some of the more intense exercises. Maybe it's a squat, maybe it's a lunge, maybe it's other sorts of exercises. We need to understand that we need a little bit of flexibility there. And then we need the control and balance. We need that athleticism, which is a bit of a mouthful, as you can tell, but we need it nonetheless. And if we're going into exercises that require a great degree of agility, we need to think twice. Do we necessarily have that? Or should we think maybe let's stick to something a bit more static to start with? So some nice principles that we tend to advise people in our back in shape is number 1, choose an exercise or a series of exercises that involve stabilizing the core and holding it steady with a neutral spine. Let me show you what I mean. The spine should remain in this position, and the engagement of the core should be like a core set, tightening, holding everything stable. Whether we're moving through a squat, a lunge, etc., this core is held nice and strong. So that's that first thing. We want an exercise that challenges the core by challenging it to maintain stasis. Now, a big bad example of this is going to be endless leg raises, is going to be Russian twists, the sorts that are so common, that round your back here and twist lots, because that's a great way to herniate a disc. We don't want to be doing those sorts of things. And how often have you required excess force to bend yourself forward and twist lots? It's not something that is required, but what is required is maybe carrying that big box, holding my core steady and my spine upright and moving it from A to B with my spine in a nice neutral position. That is required. Or maybe moving my arms from here to there. That might be required whilst I hold a steady base. Or maybe my spine being held steady while I'm going through a squat and my hips are moving through quite a large range of motion. That's very, very important. So what are a few simple exercises that do actually hold the spine steady? We've got a squat like this. As you're going through the squat range of motion, the spine is remaining neutral while the hips move and the core is engaged. We've also got a lunge over here. The lunge, again, the spine is staying steady whilst we're going through the lunge. In this instance, we've got a kettlebell over the shoulder, so we're required to stabilize the shoulder girdle whilst we're going through that lunge. And this one up here, you've got a hip hinge. A great way of holding the spine stable as it goes through a hinging motion, something that's very applicable to the real world. Those are just 3 examples that work the whole body in a great way. And then we've got the back muscles or the upper body muscles. Well, you may as well strengthen those back muscles at the same time, because if we've got back pain and we're trying to lose weight, then there are some great ways we can actually do that and really have some success and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We can do exercises like these ones here and here, where we're again following that principle we mentioned earlier, holding the core nice and steady, but engaging those back muscles and bringing them together to help support better posture. We've also got much more compound exercises like this one here, which is working the lower body muscles at the same time as working the upper body muscles. And that is a really good one, but it requires more skill. And remember what I said earlier, we need to have skill and an accurate definition of what our personal levels of skill are. Can we do this without injuring our back and without overstraining any particular areas of the back or shoulder girdle? It's very, very important to consider these things. At the end of the day, the most important thing is that you have success with losing weight and with getting in shape. And that's why we created these sorts of exercises in the Back in Shape program. You've got our phase 4, which is really perfect for anyone just looking to achieve those 2 goals. You've got a series of back-friendly exercises like the ones you've seen here, but we also add in the coaching videos, things to watch out for. And it might even be that you realize, hey, I'm not good enough to do that exercise. I'm struggling too much. Maybe I'm missing some of the foundational exercises that are in our phase 2 for people with a little bit more sinister back pain. They may be recovering earlier on in that recovery process. And sometimes it actually is really worthwhile spending a week or 2 going back to some of the basics before we step back up again into these sorts of workouts. So hopefully you found this video really helpful. If this is your first time watching one of our videos, congratulations on making it this far. We hope you found it really, really useful. Remember, you can always subscribe to the channel. You can hit the thumbs up icon and also consider sharing this video with someone else. It is so important that we get these things right. And if we get them right, we're gonna have success. And if we have success, we won't have back pain. And that's really important. You can always click a link above here to learn more about Back in Shape. And we look forward to seeing you in another video. If you want to learn more about the premium Back in Shape membership, there's going to be a video somewhere underneath here. And if you want to stay up to date or tune into some of our more recent live streams and the Q&As at the end of those, then that's going to be down here. And remember, you can subscribe to the channel up here and hit the notification bell to make sure you know when we next go live, so you can join us for our next live stream and Q&A.